She thought she had the last word, standing there, chin high, convinced the world was her stage and he was just an extra. "You don't belong here. Go back to Africa." The crowd froze. Someone bit their lip. Someone else already hit record. But instead of getting angry or walking away, he just smiled. That smile? It was the first crack in her confidence. She thought she was in control, but in just a few minutes, she'd wish she had never opened her mouth. The streets of New York City buzzed with the usual chaos, taxis honking, street vendors shouting, and people moving with purpose, eyes glued to their phones or locked in their own worlds. Marcus Wilson, a 32-year-old black man, had just wrapped up a frustrating meeting in Midtown. Dressed in a crisp navy blue suit, he looked every bit the professional, but today had been one of those days where no matter how polished he was, the world still wanted to remind him where it thought he belonged. He sighed and stepped up to a small sidewalk cafe. The bitter aroma of fresh coffee filled the air as he ordered an espresso and found a seat outside. He just needed 5 minutes to clear his head, and then, like clockwork, the universe sent in its latest test. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing here?" Marcus barely looked up. He assumed she was talking to someone else. "You, the one in the suit, pretending you belong." Now he looked. Standing in front of him was a white woman, mid-60s, short silver hair, pearl necklace, and the expression of someone who had never been told no in her entire life. Her energy screamed, "Karen." "Are you talking to me?" Marcus asked, taking a slow sip of his coffee. "You're taking up space that's not meant for you," she spat, her voice dripping with contempt. Marcus blinked. He had zero patience for this today. "Lady, it's a public cafe. I ordered, I paid, I sit. That's how it works." "Oh, I see how it is," she scoffed. "You people think you can just waltz in and act like you own everything." His jaw tightened. "Here we go. And by you people, you mean?" "Don't play dumb. You know exactly what I mean. You're not from here. Why don't you go back where you came from? Back to Africa or whatever jungle you crawled out of?" The cafe fell silent. The barista froze mid-pour. A businessman who had been scrolling through his emails lowered his phone. A couple at the next table exchanged wide-eyed glances. Someone pulled out their phone and hit record. Marcus let out a deep breath and set his cup down. Wow, bold move to be this loud and wrong in public. She folded her arms, smirking like she had just won a debate. "It's the truth. This country wasn't made for you. Lady, I was born in Chicago. My father was born in Chicago. My grandfather was born in Chicago. My great-grandfather was..." "Well, maybe y'all should have stayed in your own place," she cut him off. "We let you in, and now you're everywhere, taking what doesn't belong to you." A few gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus chuckled, a low, unimpressed chuckle. "You're standing in New York, one of the most diverse cities on Earth, acting like it's some exclusive club." "Because it should be," she snapped. "You people bring crime, you take our jobs, and you act like victims. Look at you. You probably don't even have a real job, do you?" A guy from a nearby table muttered, "Oh, she's really going for it." Another voice whispered, "Does she not see the phone cameras? She's about to go viral." Marcus rubbed his temples. He wasn't shocked, not even a little bit, but the sheer audacity. That still got him every time. "So, let me get this straight," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You just saw me sitting here, drinking my coffee, minding my business, and your brain went, 'Yup, definitely a criminal'? That's the math you're running? I call it like I see it." "Then you might want to get your vision checked, because I have a job, lady." Her face twisted into another smug smirk. "Yeah? Doing what? Cleaning offices? Driving an Uber? Or did some company hire you just to meet a quota?" Marcus grinned. Oh, she had no idea. "Well, since you're so curious." He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a leather wallet. A golden badge flashed in the sunlight. A couple of people in the crowd gasped. "Detective Marcus Wilson, NYPD." The cafe erupted into whispers. "Oh, she messed up." "A cop. Oh, this just got good." "But Karen." Karen went pale. The cafe was dead silent. Karen's smug confidence had vanished the second she saw the golden badge in Marcus's hand. For the first time, she hesitated. For the first time, she realized she might have picked the wrong fight. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Panic was setting in. You're a cop?" Her voice had lost its sharpness. Marcus didn't rush his response. He let the weight of her question hang in the air. He tapped his badge lightly with his index finger, almost casually, as if giving her a moment to soak in the situation she had just walked herself into. That's right. The whispers in the cafe escalated. Did she really just say all that to a detective? Oh, she's about to be famous for the wrong reasons. Man, someone check Twitter. This has to be trending already. A young guy in a hoodie, probably a college student, leaned toward Marcus's table, grinning. Yo, officer, you need a lawyer? 'Cause I swear I'll represent you for free just to watch this go down. Marcus let out a short chuckle, but his focus remained locked on Karen. She was still standing there, completely frozen. The sheer arrogance she had walked in with. Gone. Now there was nothing but a deep, gnawing fear in her eyes. She had been so sure of herself, so sure that she could say whatever she wanted, however she wanted, without consequences. But now? Now she looked like she was about to pass out on the spot. Let me get this straight, Marcus said, leaning back slightly in his chair, voice still calm but carrying a sharp edge. You stood here in front of all these people and called an NYPD detective a criminal, told me to go back to Africa, and you thought, what? That you were just going to walk away from this like it never happened? Karen's gaze flickered to the crowd. She saw the phones, the dozens of people filming her, some shaking their heads, others wide-eyed with anticipation, her hands clenched into small fists at her sides. Her breath was coming a little faster now. I didn't know you were... A cop, Marcus finished for her. Right, you just assumed I wasn't, because of my skin. She flinched, her face twisted, like she wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because it was true. I didn't mean it like that. Nah, Marcus shook his head. You meant it exactly like that. A young woman in yoga pants, sipping her iced coffee, let out a low whistle. Phew, she walked right into that one. A businessman near the counter smirked. I've seen some bad choices in my life, but this is next level bad. Karen was crumbling, her arrogance was gone, her excuses, weak at best, and the more she floundered, the more the crowd ate it up. But Marcus, he wasn't gloating, he wasn't angry, he was calm, focused, like a man who had been here before, like a man who had dealt with this exact brand of ignorance his whole life. Karen, on the other hand, was running out of options. And then, she made it so much worse for herself. She reached for her phone. You know what, she said, gripping it tight. I don't feel safe. I think I should call the police. The cafe erupted. People laughed. Some actually clapped. Oh, she really said that? Lady, he is the police. Nah, this has got to be a joke. Even Marcus had to chuckle at that one. He sat forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table. Karen, her fingers tightened around her phone. I am the police. She froze. So let's think this through, Marcus continued, voice smooth as silk. Who exactly do you think they're going to believe here? That hit her like a brick wall. Her hand hovered over her screen, trembling. Her eyes darted back to the crowd, to the phones recording, to the faces watching her every move. And that's when she finally got it. There was no way out of this. Then from somewhere in the crowd, a voice cut through the tension. A young woman, probably in her mid-20s, holding up her phone, filming everything. Hey, officer? Just curious, what exactly happens when someone files a false police report? Karen's face drained of all color. Marcus grinned. Oh, that, he said, taking his time, enjoying the moment. That's a crime. And just like that, Karen's world officially collapsed. Karen's face turned ghostly white. Her hand, still gripping her phone, shook slightly. She had walked into this situation so sure of herself, so confident that she was in control. But now she looked like a person standing at the edge of a cliff, realizing too late that there was no solid ground beneath her feet. The weight of Marcus's words, "That's a crime," hit her like a freight train. A crime?" she stammered, blinking rapidly. Marcus leaned back, taking another sip of his coffee, as if they were just casually chatting about the weather. Oh yeah, he said smoothly, knowingly filing a false police report. That's a big deal. Karen's breath hitched. She looked around the cafe as if hoping someone, anyone, would step in and save her. But no one did. Instead, the crowd was eating this up. A guy in a baseball cap whistled. Man, she dug herself a hole so deep, she's gonna need a rescue team to pull her out. A woman near the counter shook her head. That is what happens when you run your mouth without thinking. Karen turned back to Marcus, desperation creeping into her voice. Listen, I didn't mean anything by it, okay? It was just a misunderstanding. Marcus raised an eyebrow. A misunderstanding, he echoed. Karen, you called me a criminal. You told me to go back to Africa. You literally just said you were going to call the cops on me for drinking coffee. Karen swallowed hard. I wasn't thinking. Oh, you were thinking plenty, Marcus countered, his voice calm but sharp. You were thinking that you could say whatever you wanted and no one would call you out on it. Karen's hands clenched into fists. So what? You're just going to punish me for a bad choice? I made a mistake, okay? Marcus took a slow breath. He had seen this before. The switch. The moment when people like her went from arrogance to victimhood. The moment when reality finally set in and they couldn't handle the consequences. Punish you, Marcus repeated, shaking his head. Karen, I'm not punishing you. You punished yourself the second you opened your mouth. The crowd let out a low murmur. Karen's eyes darted toward the exit. Look, I don't want any trouble, okay? Can we just... I don't know, forget this ever happened. Marcus tilted his head, watching her carefully. Forget? He mused. So now you want to pretend this didn't happen? Just erase it like it's nothing? Karen nodded quickly, hope flickering in her expression. Yes, I mean, it's not like I actually did anything wrong, right? And just like that, whatever sympathy she might have had left evaporated. The crowd groaned. A barista behind the counter let out a laugh. Oh, she really doesn't get it. Marcus exhaled slowly. Karen, let me ask you something, he said, his voice quieter now, but somehow heavier. If the roles were reversed, if I was the one who walked up to you, called you names, made wild accusations, do you honestly think I'd be walking away right now? Karen's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Marcus gave her a moment to answer. She didn't, because they both knew the truth. You were so sure that no one would challenge you, Marcus continued, so sure that you could say whatever you wanted, and the world would back you up. Karen shifted uncomfortably. That's not... I didn't... But the thing is, Karen, Marcus cut in, leaning forward slightly, the world's changing, and people like you don't get to just say things like that and walk away anymore. The crowd nodded. Karen looked at the cameras again. The realization finally hit her. This wasn't going away. This moment was stamped into the internet forever. She had lost. And now? Now she had to sit with it. So what happens now? Karen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus studied her for a moment, then he stood up, slipping his badge back into his pocket. That's up to you. Karen looked at him, confused. What do you mean? Marcus shrugged. You can walk away from this moment and pretend it never happened. Karen's shoulders relaxed slightly, but then Marcus's next words hit her like a brick. Or you can learn from it. Karen's face twisted slightly, like she wanted to argue, but deep down, she knew. She had a choice. She could deny it, or she could own it. The cafe remained silent. Karen slowly exhaled. Then, without another word, she turned and walked out. The door slammed shut behind her. The crowd let out a collective sigh. A guy in a suit shook his head. She'll probably still play the victim later. A woman near the counter nodded. But at least she knows now. At least she knows she's not untouchable. Marcus picked up his coffee, took a slow sip, and smiled slightly. The world wasn't perfect, and people like Karen, they weren't going anywhere. But moments like this, they were proof that things were changing, even if it was just one Karen at a time. What would you do in this situation? If you were in Marcus's shoes, how would you have handled it? Have you or someone you know ever experienced something similar? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you believe in standing up for what's right. And don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening stories that shine a light on real issues and help make the world a better place. This story isn't just entertainment, it's a reminder that change starts with awareness. Your voice matters.